She called the cops. She thought she'd win. What she didn't know, my wife was the law. 3 police cruisers stopped in front of our house, red and blue lights flashing. Every neighbor pressed their face to the window. Victoria Whitman. The HOA president stood in the middle of the street pointing directly at my wife, yelling, "She refused to open the door." They're defying my authority. But just minutes later, when my wife stepped outside, everything flipped, and Victoria would soon wish she had never come after us. We moved to Millbrook, chasing peace-quiet streets, trimmed lawns, polite nods. I'm David Bennett, 37, a data analyst who preferred silence over small talk. My wife, Anna. Even quieter. She loved gardening early tea and never said much about her work, just vague mentions of interagency coordination. Then came Victoria Whitman. Clipboard in hand, blazer, sharp smile too tight. "Welcome," she said. "Here's the HOA manual, 200 pages. Parking section's important." She handed me a binder heavier than my college debt. I laughed politely. She didn't. Something in her eyes told me this wasn't hospitality, it was surveillance. 2 mornings and a bright orange citation bloomed on our windshield. Fine, $200. Violation 2 inches too close to curb. I checked. She was right, technically. Appendix, page 146, 3 to 6 inch rule. A rule enacted 5 days ago, right after we arrived. Anna stared at the ticket. "She's not enforcing," she murmured. "She's baiting." That night, Victoria emailed the entire neighborhood subject "New residents threaten community order." Attached were photos our car, red arrows, bold accusations. It wasn't about parking, it was about power, and we'd just been marked. At 7:00 a.m., sharp, Victoria returned measuring tape in hand, DSLR ready. She crouched like a detective at a crime scene, muttering 1.9 inches, intentional. Click, click, click. Evidence, always evidence. Anna didn't flinch, but I saw it in her shoulders, her stillness. That evening, I found her at the table sifting through emails, scribbling in a small leather notebook. "She's not crazy," Anna said softly. "She's tactical. We weren't violating rules. We were being tested. And Victoria. She was only warming up." By week 2, Victoria escalated from passive aggression to public humiliation. She called an emergency HOA meeting. Every seat in the community center was filled. On the big screen behind her, a slideshow, dozens of photos of our car, our driveway, time-stamped, annotated, dissected like evidence in a criminal trial. "The Bennetts," she declared, laser pointer in hand, "have violated HOA codes 15 times in 10 days. They endanger our property values and community standards." Whispers, murmurs, cold stares aimed at us. But Anna didn't flinch. She simply opened her notebook and began writing. Calm, precise. When asked if we had anything to say, she looked up and said evenly, "Not at this time." Victoria smirked, thinking she'd won. She had no idea she'd just stepped into the wrong battlefield against the wrong woman. Victoria's campaign turned obsessive. She began tracking our routines with disturbing precision. Every time Anna left the house, Victoria happened to be there, clipboard in hand, phone recording, pretending to check bushes or count cracks on sidewalks. One afternoon, I came home to find Anna standing in the driveway, arms crossed, eyes red. "She told Mrs. Green and Mr. Lopez that I'm not legally allowed to live here," she said, voice shaking. "She said you were too blind to realize you'd married someone beneath this community." My fists clenched. Anna wiped her eyes and added quietly but sharply, "Power makes people bold. But the ones who abuse it never expect consequences." I looked at her, then really looked, and for the first time I realized Victoria hadn't just picked the wrong target. She had no clue who she was dealing with. Victoria didn't stop at petty fines and public shaming. She turned the entire neighborhood into her stage. Printed flyers appeared in mailboxes: "Protect Millbrook. Demand accountability from new residents." In one, our house was circled in red with captions like, uncooperative, suspicious, potential legal status unknown. Neighbors who once waved now avoided eye contact. Some crossed the street. One even whispered, "Are you really supposed to be here?" Anna took it all in, silently writing, filing, saving. I asked if she was okay. She looked up and said, "She's trying to isolate us." Classic move, dehumanize first, then destroy. There was no outrage in her tone, just precision, pattern recognition. And then she added, "She's not just trying to scare us, she's laying groundwork for something bigger." And she was right. Week 3, the attacks turned tactical. Victoria accused us of vandalism, specifically a sidewalk crack in front of our house. A crack that had clearly been there since before we moved in. I'd noticed it during the open house, but now she presented evidence at another HOA meeting, time-stamped photos, fake measurements, dramatic slides. This damage occurred under the Bennett's residency. They are financially responsible $3,000 in repair fees, she declared. Gasps. Some nods. A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Anna stood up slowly, eyes calm. "Are you absolutely certain you want to pursue a legal path?" Mrs. Whitman Victoria laughed. "What are you, a lawyer or something?" Anna's voice dropped like steel. "But I understand the law. Better than you think?" That was the first time Victoria paused. The first crack in her confidence. After that meeting, Anna didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She got to work. For the next 48 hours, she barely left her desk. She printed documents, highlighted legal codes, made phone calls to numbers I didn't recognize. When I asked what she was doing, she replied without looking up. Filing a formal complaint. Documenting HOA abuse, targeted harassment, and financial misconduct. It needs to go to the right people above her. Victoria must have sensed something. Her next move was desperate new signs appeared across the neighborhood. Assisting the Bennett family in any way will result in a $500 penalty under HOA Solidarity Clause. She blocked our trash access, disabled our key fob for the pool. "This is psychotic," I muttered. Anna, flipping through another statute, said calmly, "It's also highly illegal, and soon it would be public." That Saturday morning, the pounding on our door was thunderous. Victoria, again furious, red-faced, demanding entry for a mandatory HOA inspection. Anna didn't answer. Minutes later, we heard her outside, shouting into the phone. 2 hours later, 3 police cruisers pulled up. Victoria stood like a queen, awaiting victory. Arms folded, smirking. They refused official HOA protocol, she told the officers. "That's obstruction." The lead officer approached cautiously. Anna opened the door, calm, casual in workout clothes. "Sergeant Peterson, isn't it?" she said smoothly. He blinked. "Yes, ma'am, but I don't believe we've met." She handed over her ID. His face changed immediately. His stance straightened. His voice stiffened. "Chief? Bennett." Behind him, the other officers shifted, saluted, and Victoria's smug grin evaporated in real time. Victoria stared frozen. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Anna stepped forward, calm and firm. "I'm Chief Anna Bennett, head of Millbrook Township Police. I started 3 months ago. I don't wear my badge on weekends, but that doesn't mean I stop being who I am." Sergeant Peterson nodded, now fully alert. "Ma'am, Victoria Whitman reported obstruction of government business." Anna turned to Victoria, her expression unreadable. "Mrs. Whitman, are you claiming your HOA authority qualifies as legal government enforcement?" Victoria stammered. I'm the president. That gives me rights." Anna's voice sharpened. "The HOA is not a law enforcement agency. You have no authority to demand entry, detain residents, or call 911 under false pretenses." Behind us, neighbors had gathered. Phones were recording. Whispers grew. And just like that, the predator had become the spectacle. And the tide had officially turned. Victoria tried to recover. "I didn't know she was... I wouldn't have..." Anna didn't flinch. "Ignorance of identity doesn't excuse false police reports, misuse of emergency services, or harassment." Sergeant Peterson stepped in tone firm. "Ma'am, we'll be filing an incident report. This could qualify as a misdemeanor." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then Mr. Patterson, our elderly neighbor, stepped forward. "I've lived here 20 years, he said. "That sidewalk crack, been there since 2018. I filed complaints about it myself." Anna nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Patterson." Victoria looked around, searching for support. Finding none. More neighbors began speaking quietly at first, then louder. She fined me for having sunflowers. She threatened to report me over Halloween lights. One by one, the silence broke, and, for the first time, Victoria looked small. Anna turned to me and whispered, "She's losing her control, and she knows it." That night, Anna received an anonymous email. No subject line, just an attachment. A scanned document heavily marked. Internal HOA correspondence. At the bottom, Pinnacle Development Corporation. The letter outlined a proposed revitalization plan for Millbrook. Buried in the fine print incentives for HOA leaders who could encourage accelerated resident turnover. A bonus clause for each house sold under market value. It hit us like a punch. "She's not just cruel," Anna said. "She's bought." Victoria's harassment wasn't personal, it was strategic. We were the first test case, the blueprint for pushing others out. Anna leaned back, eyes sharp. She's laying legal traps, financial pressure, public isolation. Then, they crack, sell, leave. But Victoria didn't realize something. This time, her easy target had a badge, a plan, and a network that reached higher than any HOA. The next day, a manila envelope appeared at our doorstep. No return address. Inside, printed emails, meeting transcripts, and one damning HOA memo signed by Mildred Harper Victoria's right hand. One email read, "Start with the Bennetts. If they bend, the rest will follow. Use citations, spotlight meetings, rumors, whatever it takes." Another, even colder, "Don't worry about legality. No one ever fights back." Anna's hands tightened on the pages. They've turned the HOA into a corporate weapon. She scanned the documents and began assembling a timeline cross-referencing every violation we received with HOA meeting dates and internal memos. "This isn't just abuse," she said. "It's organized coercion." I asked, "Who sent this?" Anna looked out the window toward the house across the street. "Someone who still believes in accountability," she said, and just gave us the match to light the fire. 2 days later, I saw Mildred pacing outside the community center, phone pressed tight to her ear. Her fingers gripped the phone like a lifeline. Sweat gleamed on her forehead despite the cool breeze. She kept glancing over her shoulder. I stayed hidden and hit record. Her voice sharp, irritated. "Yes, I told them the wife's cracking. Once they pay the fine, we move on the Rodriguez's next." A pause, then a quiet, cruel laugh. "They actually think those rules are real. Victoria made them up after brunch. Beautiful." My stomach turned. Later, I played it for Anna. She listened in silence, then quietly said, "It's enough." She slid the file into a folder marked Phase 2, Escalation. That night, she made a single phone call. I only heard 2 words before she hung up federal oversight. This wasn't about a sidewalk anymore. It was about justice. The next HOA meeting was announced with urgency, community emergency, mandatory attendance. Victoria clearly wanted control back, but Anna was ready. She prepared a slim binder labeled Millbrook Operation Exposure. Inside, printed HOA violations, falsified citations, internal emails, timestamps of harassment, audio logs, and at the top, Mildred's recorded call. "You're going to show this?" I asked. "Not yet," she replied. "Let them hang themselves first." That night, neighbors gathered restlessly, buzzing with rumors. Anna sat in the middle row, silent, composed. I sat beside her, heart pounding. She flipped through her folder like a prosecutor rehearsing opening arguments. Victoria walked in last, polished, smiling, dressed in her usual purple blazer, like royalty. She waved confidently. But behind the smile I saw it, her eyes scanning, twitching. She knew something was coming. She just didn't know we already had her cornered. Victoria took the podium like a politician under pressure, smile, tight tone, rehearsed. Good evening, neighbors. We're here to address a growing threat to our community: non-compliance and disrespect for HOA standards. Behind her, the projector flickered to life yet again photos of our car, our trash bins, even a frame of Anna watering plants. Time-stamped, highlighted, dramatized. 15 violations in 3 weeks, she announced. The Bennetts have openly defied our bylaws, endangered property values, and undermined community order. Some neighbors nodded. Others looked down uneasy. Anna remained still. I clenched my fists. Then Victoria raised her voice. And when I attempted a lawful inspection, I was met with obstruction and intimidation. Mildred chimed in from the side, smug, "We cannot allow lawlessness even from those who wear a badge." The crowd stirred. Anna slowly stood up, and the silence that followed was louder than any accusation. Anna didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She connected her laptop to the projector with steady hands. No drama, just control. Before we're accused of destroying the neighborhood, she said, let's talk about where the money's actually going. Slide 1 appeared: HOA budget, annotated. It showed excessive legal consultation fees, private bonuses, labeled compliance incentives, and HOA funds redirected to an unregistered account. Victoria's face paled. Mildred stiffened. Anna continued. We were fined $200 for parking 2 inches too close to the curb. That money, along with thousands more, was rerouted into what appears to be a personal fund under Victoria's name. Gasps. Shifting chairs. Whispers turning into words. David stepped forward beside her, now holding a printed ledger. These aren't rules, they're revenue streams. Victoria tried to speak, but Anna raised a hand. I'm not done yet. And no one dared interrupt. Mildred shot up from her seat, voice shrill. This is slander. None of that is true. Those documents are manipulated. Anna didn't flinch. Then let's hear it. From you. She clicked to the next slide, then hit play. The room went silent as Mildred's voice filled the speakers, the wife's cracking. Once they pay that fine, we move on the Rodriguez's next. Victoria just makes up the rules. It's brilliant. They don't even question it. A cold chuckle followed. If anyone asks, we'll blame admin error. They'll fold. Mildred froze, face drained of color. Victoria looked like she'd been sucker punched. Anna stared at the screen as if it were evidence in a courtroom. This was recorded legally, time-stamped, verified, and submitted this morning to township authorities. No one breathed, because this wasn't just petty abuse anymore. This was criminal conspiracy. The room erupted, gasps. Murmurs a woman in the back whispered, "Oh my God!" Victoria stood desperate. That recording proves nothing. It's out of context. Anna didn't even look at her. She calmly clicked to the final slide. A video. Victoria's voice unmistakable, speaking into her phone. If Pinnacle wants these houses cheap, we keep squeezing. Start with the Bennetts. They'll break eventually. Then laughter. Can't believe they bought the parking rule. I wrote it after brunch. She paused. Then darker. We need to get rid of anything that can link this back. Trash it. Burn it. I don't care. The room fell into horrified silence. Someone in the back whispered. She said, "Burn it." Another voice. She admitted everything. Anna looked around the crowd and said quietly but clearly, "Now you understand. This wasn't about parking or lawns. It was about profit, control, and manipulation." Outside, faint but unmistakable sirens began to approach. The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flared against the windows of the community center. Then doors swung open. 5 law enforcement vehicles lined the curb, but not just local police. These bore the insignia of state investigators and federal oversight. Officers in tactical vests moved with purpose. No hesitation. The room froze. Victoria backed away from the podium. Mildred clutched the table like it might save her. Anna stepped forward, voice unwavering. Based on the evidence presented, financial fraud, targeted harassment, falsified regulations, and conspiracy to manipulate property values. I've filed formal charges with the district attorney. She turned toward the officers and raised her badge. With full authority as Chief of Police for Millbrook Township, I hereby order the arrest of Victoria Whitman and Mildred Harper. 2 officers moved. Handcuffs clicked. Gasps. A phone dropped. And for the first time since we moved in, no one was afraid of Victoria anymore. Victoria thrashed in disbelief as the cuffs locked around her wrists. "You can't do this." "I'm the HOA president," she screamed. Anna's voice was cold steel, and that title doesn't place you above the law. Mildred tried to slip away quietly too late. A plainclothes agent intercepted her near the exit. "We'll need your phone, Ms. Harper, and a lawyer." Then came the breaking point. A man from the board, Thomas Blake, once one of Victoria's loudest defenders, stood up shaking. She made us sign everything. Said if we didn't, we'd be removed or sued. Another board member, visibly pale, added, "I was told not to ask questions, that it was for the greater good." The crowd turned. No one defended Victoria anymore, because now they knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a machine, and they'd all been part of it until tonight. As the officers led Victoria and Mildred away, a hush lingered until it shattered. Maria Rodriguez stood, tears in her eyes. "She fined me $600 for planting sunflowers instead of white hydrangeas. Said it violated the uniform bloom clause." Her voice cracked. I was scared to say anything. I thought it was just me. Then came Mr. Patterson. She threatened to revoke my mailbox access if I didn't repaint my shutters. I'm 74. I thought I'd done something wrong. More neighbors, rose voices, trembling stories spilling. Fines, intimidation, threats of lawsuits, rules that didn't exist until the day someone crossed Victoria. Anna didn't interrupt. She let it happen. Because this wasn't just justice, it was catharsis. For the first time in months, Millbrook wasn't under control. It was reclaiming its voice. One truth at a time. When the room finally quieted, Anna walked calmly back to the front, standing where Victoria had once delivered her declarations. She connected one final file to the projector, this time a chart. Title: Violations versus HOA Rulebook Timeline. On the left, dates of citations. On the right, dates the rules were quietly inserted or altered. The truth was undeniable. Dozens of violations were based on rules written after the alleged offenses. These weren't violations, Anna said. They were traps fabricated to pressure homeowners into selling or surrendering. Then she turned to the crowd. "I'm not here to run your HOA. That's not my job. But as chief of police, it is my job to ensure power isn't abused, especially not behind closed doors under the guise of community values." She paused, looked every person in the eye. This neighborhood doesn't need fear to function. It needs fairness. And this time, the applause came like thunder. The next morning, a notice was posted across Millbrook Emergency HOA Vote. Leadership restructuring tonight at 6 p.m. No one stayed home. At the meeting, Jim Patterson, retired, steady respected, was nominated for interim president. No opposition, no drama, just quiet, unanimous agreement. His first act, dissolving every amendment passed in the last 6 months. His second, forming a reform committee. Anna was invited as legal advisor. She declined any official title but offered full cooperation. "I'll help you build something better, transparent, accountable, human." The leather-bound HOA manual was reduced from 200 confusing pages to 26 clear ones. Out went petty rules, curb measurements, flower color restrictions, trash bin positioning. In came safety protocols, community events, green space preservation. It wasn't just a policy shift. It was the start of Millbrook becoming a neighborhood again, not a regime. Within a week, things began to shift subtly at first, then all at once. The Rodriguez family replanted their sunflower bed bold and bright, no longer fearing a citation. Maria smiled for the first time in weeks. Mr. Patterson's shutters stayed the same color, dark blue, and no one said a word. The pool reopened, no dress code signs in sight. Children played, parents laughed, and no one looked over their shoulder. Flyers no longer warned of fines. They announced block parties, garden exchanges, safety workshops. Neighbors who had once avoided eye contact now lingered at mailboxes, offered help with groceries, or just said, "Good to see you." Millbrook wasn't perfect, but it was healing. And somewhere beneath it all, you could feel it. The fear that once clung to every rule and every knock on the door was finally gone. Anna never asked for recognition. She didn't stand for applause or seek a spotlight, but it found her anyway. The mayor of Millbrook Township invited her to speak at the annual Civic Awards. She tried to decline twice. Eventually, she agreed under one condition: no titles, no speeches, just a message. She stood before the crowd, calm and grounded. You don't need a badge to fight abuse. You need truth, and persistence, and community. Her words were simple, but they landed hard. Later that week, the Township Council officially awarded her the Civic Integrity Medal, not just for her police work, but for restoring something more fragile: trust. When we returned home, a note waited at our door, written in careful handwriting. "Thank you for giving us our neighborhood back." Anna read it, smiled softly, and said, "We didn't fix it. They chose to stand up, together." Months passed, but the story of what happened in Millbrook didn't fade. It became legend. The local paper ran a feature titled "The Fall of Victoria Whitman," when a badge met a bully. Real estate agents began marketing homes in Millbrook with a new tagline, "Where Fairness Lives." Property values rose not because of fear or rigid enforcement, but because people wanted to live there. At the neighborhood entrance, the community voted to install a bronze plaque. It reads, "Millbrook, Reclaimed 2024, built on justice held together by truth." Underneath, in smaller letters, funded by Pinnacle Development violation fines. It became more than a joke. It became a symbol of resistance, of unity, of what happens when fear is replaced by courage. And every time someone walked past it, they remembered Victoria tried to divide them, but justice brought them together. By spring, Millbrook had transformed. Children rode bikes freely again, no one scolded them for chalk drawings. Mr. Nguyen hosted weekend barbecues. The Stevens family painted a mural on their fence. Neighbors stopped to admire it, not report it. Anna and I sat on our porch most evenings, no longer in silence, but in conversation with people who once feared us, now friends. Mrs. Green brought over lemon bars with a quiet, tearful thank you. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how to stop it, she whispered. You just did, Anna said gently. The HOA became what it should have always been, a tool for collaboration, not control, and slowly the shadow Victoria cast faded into memory. But the lesson that stayed with all of us, because once you've seen what abuse of power looks like up close, you never let it take root again. No matter the title you hold, abusing power to harass or exploit others always leads to consequences. Truth has a way of surfacing slowly, quietly, then all at once, especially when someone has the wisdom to document, observe, and wait. Anna never raised her voice. She never fought fire with fire. She let Victoria reveal herself, one reckless act at a time. Injustice doesn't disappear on its own. It takes courage, evidence, and steady hands to confront it. What Millbrook found wasn't just justice, it was unity rebuilt from honesty and mutual respect. Maybe your neighborhood isn't perfect either, but change doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it starts with someone calmly saying, "Enough." If this story moved you, like, subscribe, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. From our porch to yours, thank you for listening.